Hi, and welcome to the video. And in this video, you're going to get an actual look at how I conduct a check-in process and make recommendations for a client step by step. I'm going to walk you through it and actually use myself as an example. I've been running a case study on myself. Step by step on how I actually would conduct this for a client. But today I'm actually going to be doing it for myself and using myself as the example. As you can see here in the background, without any further ado, you'll get an inside look at my thought process and some of the approaches that I take when it comes to supplementation, exercise, nutrition, rest and recovery, and all the above. You get an inside look at that and also shed some light on what actually goes on behind the scenes of Coach Kia in this instance. So without any further ado, let's just hop right in. If you'll see here on the screen, I've got it. I'm on my MacBook. So you get to see what it looks like from the coaching side of when we pull up a client's profile. In this case, it's Coach Kia, or Kia, the client account. But you can see I've been running my data through the Tautua Fitness app and got everything synced and linked. As you can see here in the dashboard view, this gives us an overall snapshot look at everything that's going on. Here on the right side, to get live updates. But if a client, or Coach Kia in this instance, gets a workout in, puts in pictures, logs a meal, misses a workout, whatever it is, I get live updates here. And we'll jump right back into the overview here, so I can see current weight, calorie burn. We track sleep, steps taken in the day, body fat. We get progress photos. All those metrics are right here, and we're going to do a quick check-in and make recommendations based on where we're at in programming. And like I had alluded to earlier in this video, that I just finished coming out of a bulking phase, and we'll go over that data here. I'm currently right in the middle of cutting. It's about 2 weeks out from Christmas. Of course, the best time to try to implement a cut is right around the holidays, like I'm doing, and we'll show you what that looks like. Out of the dash view, we'll jump into the calendar. And so calendar view here is somewhere we can see where logged workouts, logged meals, and as you can see, this client here has not been really good about logging meals or exercises. But even though that information is missing here, we can correlate that with calorie burns and steps. Here we can definitely see days that clients being more active, and in this case, again, it's me. So this past month, haven't done a really good job at logging exercises, but we can pull in here and definitely see that there's several outlaying days here where calorie burn was up into the almost 5,000. This day 5,200, but we could see the more active days. If we were to draw this in a little bit closer, we can see some of the rest days. Pretty consistent across the board. Every couple of days there's some rest days. And to give you some insight, I work a 48-96 schedule at the fire department. There, you'll see 2 days here very active because I'm running calls, exercising at work, getting pretty busy. And historically, the day after shift, I tend to use as my down days and try not to do a whole lot. I'm either catching up on sleep or resting. And you'll see there'll be days intermittently here that it'll just be a whole lot lower. But overall, I like looking at the averages. Play the law of averages here. And so we can look at weight. I'll give you a quick look at how that looks on our board here. This morning's measurement, we got 205, 206. So you can see we're in a downward trend. And if we pull it back even further, some of these data points are way out there. We could see that it's kind of stagnant here because was kind of at a maintenance phase. And if I pull it back even further, whew, you can see where I went through a weight gain phase. There were definitely some days I didn't get measurements, but at the end of the weight gain phase, I think I topped off at 217 and been consistently going through a cut since. And so here's my weight gain phase. You see I start off at 199, I think is what I did before here, and topped off at 217. And now I'm going back down this trend where I'm trying to lose weight, ultimately looking to do body fat. Obviously, when you go through a weight gain phase, you will gain some body fat with that too. It's one of the beauties of going through a gain phase or a bulk, unfortunately, but it's why you implement another cut, and we are trying to reduce body fat here. My goal here is to get around 12% body fat at 41 years of age, and the older we get, we know that that number gets harder and harder to get to, like that sub 10%. I'm not competing, just want to look shredded AF without messing with my hormones and feeling like crap all the time. Lean mass, this is going to be important too, because what we want to do is we want to accumulate more lean mass or muscle. When we start shredding it back, we look really good, but also have the ability to be explosive, have the strength and all the good stuff that comes with having this lean mass. Decrease the fat mass, and I'm going to yell at my client for doing that. We'll do a calorie in, calorie out. There's a couple days where I'll get in there and log meals, but if I'm logging them pretty consistently, we'll be able to get a trend here, but also be able to see calorie expenditure outside of that. And so what we're doing in a weight loss phase is we're creating a gap here. Obviously, the activity and calories out should be well above calories in, or the food that we're eating, thus creating this space here, or ultimately being in a calorie deficit. Steps, just starting a 10K step a day challenge. Did I get my steps in today? I don't know why my data from today is not coming in. Did get my 10,000 steps in today, but that would be something that we would track for a client too as well. We would be making sure that we're at least hitting our 10,000 steps a day. And so let's just get right into the numbers. I've got the case study pulled up here, along with some photos. Should be very informative in that time frame that we were going over. I'll show you. Started it in the end of September, and my lowest weight I had at 199.7, and at the top of the bulk ended up at 217, 218, maybe 219, and some days that I'm holding a lot of water, drink a lot of water, or eating a bunch, but ultimately added 17.6 pounds. It increased my body fat percentage by 2. If we'll look deeper into the numbers here, we can see that my body fat percentage did go up, which ultimately is raising that BMI. We want to be out of the 30s, right? But I don't rely too heavily on BMI. That doesn't take into account muscle mass. It's just height, weight, and your age. And so you can see how you could easily be high up on this BMI, but not necessarily be obese or out of shape. I used that as a measuring metric. Was very happy to see that it was almost 10 pounds of muscle gain. Now, some of this could be water, and the only one true way for me to know is to get a DEXA scan, but looking at my measurements as far as my strength on the exercises, but also just looking here. But we're going to say, all right, let's say it's 9 pounds of muscle gain, which is fairly good. If we're gaining 17 pounds, half of that being body fat, you have to weigh out whether that's an acceptable result for you or not. Obviously, the more body fat you're holding on to, as you can see in the differences in these pictures here, you can see a little bit of abdominals popping out, even at 17, probably a little less than that. But we're just going with the measurements off this body scale that I have here at the house. 17% I'd be happy with. 15% body fat on my frame and my skin tone is going to look really, and getting close to 12% is going to look absolutely diced up and shredded to the gills, which is the goal of this next cut. But you can see the differences here. This is a month difference on just me like cutting the bar loose and eating. 17 pounds looks a lot different, and obviously we could see the numbers here. Fat-free body weight, 164 to 174, that's at 10 pounds, or that 9.2 pounds. Visceral fat, we want to avoid that. I'm going to be dinging this client too as well. We want to keep this low. But in a bulk, sometimes you just kind of cut it loose, and holding a bit more water, we could see that there was a decrease in water when I got the second weight than my bone mass. My bones got heavier because we're eating good. We're getting plenty of calcium, all that good stuff. We could see here, this check-in, that, man, the bulk went well, but I am well into a cut. Well into a cut. Let's look at those numbers. We ended up, something that my guys are definitely going to be interested in is the muscle mass. So the last measurement at the top of this measurement was 165.1, and we'll bring it over here. I got those last results also with today's results. Down 11.1 pounds in, let's see, when did it, 10/22. So we're about 2 months in, like a slow cut, almost right at the 8-week mark, which I'm happy with that weight loss. But as you can see, a lot of this is going to be contributed to fat, water, and unfortunately, in my case, muscle. So did all that work to gain 10 pounds of muscle, and I'm down 5.7 pounds of muscle mass. Losing weight's fine, but shit, half of that is muscle mass. That's that precious muscle that we're all trying to keep. And had I been tip top of my game, this would look more like 2 pounds, 1.5 if I could help it, 0 if I can help it. But if you're going to a cut, you'll lose some muscle, you'll lose some strength. But ultimately, what you want to do is not do what I did here and make about half of that. And I'm going to go over exactly how I would recommend a client if they were concerned about this. Visceral fat is going to be trending down too as well, and bone mass is staying about average. And let's look into that. So what are some of the things I would recommend to a client? And I am not going to hold back on myself. Eat enough protein. And my answer was, I have not been doing good over these past few weeks. My goal is to eat 1 gram per pound. But obviously, if we're looking at the numbers here, it would not behoove me to continue down that route because I'm losing muscle. Losing a bunch of it, and one of the main drivers is going to be that I'm not getting enough protein. There's some days I maybe ate 180 grams. I need to be eating at least my body weight in grams of protein, but I'm actually going to be bumping that up. I need to be eating quite a bit more, 1.6 to 2.2 grams, which is a ton of protein. But I like giving recommendations on ranges. I don't like being too specific because I feel like that puts more limitations on my people. So I like giving them a range. Hey, client Kia, you need to be aiming for 1.6 to 2.2. You are losing a ton of muscle. And so we need to make sure that you have plenty of protein on board. So you're not breaking down those complex amino acids and using those for energy instead, but it could be a combination of a number of things you're doing. And we'll get right into that. When we asked about hydration, I've been doing pretty good. Actually, I do really well on hydration. Doing well today, but if I don't have the right amounts of protein, I could make sure that I'm well hydrated, but protein is definitely going to be playing a factor. Strength training, need to be doing 3 to 4 times a week of really good exercises. On my check-in, I'm aiming for about 3. On average, I've been getting about 3. I've been doing a lot more walking, not necessarily cardio, but walking, especially doing this 10K a day challenge. And it needs to be prioritizing compound exercises like squats, push-ups, and rows. I do these, but I haven't been prioritizing them, and my results are showing that. Need to be targeting the 8 to 12 rep range and getting 2 to 4 sets in, especially for these major muscle groups. We can go back to client Kia's tracking here, which I'm going to be a lot better, especially doing a case study on tracking these on the Tautua fitness app. Got leg day here where I was doing that, RPE 7 out of 10. We can break down each of the exercises, the workout of the day. I log my exercises, what I did that day. And if this is a really, really good client, they're going to log what they're doing every single day, especially extracurricular activities. Be able to see that and also correlate that with what we're seeing on the dash. Let's go back to the case study. Client Kia, you need to strength train 3 to 4 times a week if you can. Get adequate sleep. You need to be concentrating on compound movements, squats, push-ups, rows, bench press, those heavy compound movements to work all those muscle groups, but also stimulate that muscle to stay. Recommendation number 4 is you need to get better sleep. And per my check-in, my sleep was trash. As bad as dog water. Average, I pulled up my average here. Let's look at that. My sleep for December has been terrible. Averaging about 4.4 hours of sleep, which compared to November, 5.5 hours. This is definitely something that's really hindering me on rest and recovery, compensation, and then overcompensation, especially with contractile tissue or muscle. And I can no longer deny it. I get my angles right on Instagram. I might have good lighting and throw a filter on it, but the numbers do not lie. I'm losing a ton of muscle. And one of the problems is I'm not prioritizing my sleep without making excuses for myself. I do have nights where sleep gets disrupted. I have no control over it due to my work. Up several times a night, as working at the fire department, we get called out. Like 911 calls happen any time of day or night. It does not matter. It could be 3 in the morning, it could be 3 in the afternoon. My problem is when I'm off work, I'm not getting enough sleep. And so I am starting that with the last 2 weeks of the year going in. It's exactly what I would do for a client, is tell them, dude, you got to get sleep. Like all the 3 workouts a week and you hitting 1 gram of protein per pound and strength training and walking, all that. If we're talking about holding on to the muscle, if you don't get the proper sleep recovery, you're going to lose muscle, dude. And the numbers do not lie. I'm down 5.7 pounds. Ugh! So we'll go into that. You need to do a better job at tracking your progress, dude. Coach Kia, client Kia. I said I did good, but obviously I showed you guys the log there. I got to get better at logging my weight, my exercises, so I can make sure that I'm progressively overloading these, concentrating on my form, time under tension, volume, having enough protein on board. I'm going to be working in some intra-workout amino acids, making sure I get some sugar during the workout there too. So I'm also not tapping too much into glycogen or being burning too much, because I'm worried about keeping that muscle on. Next one here is manage stress. And I'll tell you, job as a first responder, home life, interpersonal relationships, and then it's Christmas and holidays. And holidays are always a stressful season. By managing your stress, taking 5 to 10 minutes a day to meditate, relax, not only is good for the mental, but it's also signaling to the body with stress hormones, hunger hormones, all the restorative processes that come in. You could do yourself a ton of benefit by incorporating some stress management. It's exactly what I would recommend to a client, and it's what I'm going to recommend to myself. A little different doing a check-in for myself, because I have to talk as a coach, and then I got to talk as a client. But not holding anything back. I am giving myself the goods. Include recovery time. In my answer, when it's time to recover, I'm usually go. Filming videos, coaching clients, podcast, getting my steps in, and really need to focus on the rest and recovery. Obviously, the numbers are not lying. This is something I'm going to take to heart. Supplements I've needed. I do pretty good. There'll be some days where instead of doing a recovery shake, I would just eat my meal afterwards. I need to be better. It's going to help me hit my protein, but also my meal timing is going to be very important. Fighting hunger sensation while going through a cut as I get further and further into a deficit. Keeping my hunger in check. That's usually the number one thing people have issues with. I'm pushing a ton of energy drinks and trying to stay awake, and coffee and all that due to lack of rest. If I'm supplementing correctly, getting the protein, getting my meals in, getting my timing right, getting the right exercises in, I shouldn't have to supplement caffeine and stimulants into my diet. And then stay consistent. I said, bet, coach, watch me win. And so stick to the routine. It's the small, consistent things. It's the consistent efforts that build up those huge results over time. It's all I did really well in a gaining phase here. Put on a ton of muscle, put on some fat too. But what is it worth to do all that work, gain almost 10 pounds of muscle, only to give it all back pounds? Now I can redeem myself. If I implement these things right away, hopefully next check-in, I'm back in the 160s at the lean muscle mass and increasing strength. Especially, it would be eat protein. You need to up the protein, like get it in 1.6 to 2.2. Step number 2 that would make all the difference is strength train. I need to work in those compound exercises and really be pushing myself when we're talking about intensity, or RPE, perceived exertion. I've been pushing myself, but I need to be pushing that even harder when it comes to strength training with these compound movements and staying in the correct rep range between 8 and 12, staying in that about 3 reps in reserve, or RIR. I could not do any of this other stuff, but as long as I'm eating enough protein, getting the workouts in, and here's my big one, sleep, which we could put in with recovery time and rest and recovery. If I don't up my sleep from 4 point something hours a night to 7, man, that my dreams would control. I mean, if I just got sleep alone, we'd be recovering quite a bit here. This is what I would do in a check-in: is I would make these recommendations. I would also pop these into a to-do list. See, the things to do today on the fitness app is actually I'll show you live like how I would do that with a client. Is say, all right, let's start adding some custom habits for the next 2 weeks. We're gonna need you to eat protein for the next 3 weeks. Kia, that's what you need to do. And the other habit here, we're add another custom habit, is going to be sleep. 7 hours a night, 7 to 9 hours a night. Add that to your to-do list, dude. And last one, 4 times a week. Since it is 4 times a week, I'm only going to select 4 days. I'll do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, like that. All right, you need to get your strength training in, and you'll be able to see that here on the dash, how it would pop up for a client for their daily to-do list, that, hey, you need to eat protein, you need to sleep, do all this. And as I complete them, I'll check that and create right there. You can see in the schedule that I have it laid out. You've seen the numbers, you've seen the results, and I'm going to do a follow-up video to this and show you what my results are because Coach Kia gave me the recommendations. I know what I got to do. It's up to me to do it, just like a client would be. It would be up to them for me to make the recommendations. I can't hold your hand and make you do things, but I can give you the guidance. I could show you if you were hitting a plateau, or you were concerned about losing muscle, or gaining too much fat. Like myself here in this example, I'm losing way too much muscle. I know what to do. I made the recommendations to myself. It'd be the same thing for a client. I would make these recommendations. This is how we do the accountability. I'd give them the daily to-do list. I'm going to be updating the training program. Right now I've got a couple extra ones in there, but I'm going to be focusing on those compound movements. I'm going to do better at logging my meals so we can correlate that with being able to eat and get everything in on time. And then more importantly, especially for me, is I'm going to be tracking the sleep as long as I'm wearing my tracking device. Also prioritizing my rest to try to bring it up 5 hours. But that wasn't, that was. But the day before I had 1.5 hours of sleep. 1.5 hours of sleep. 5 minutes of sleep. Oh, I didn't sleep the night after that. Need to be better at resetting my circadian rhythm and getting full restful sleep. And that's what I would do. That's a check-in for you there. Insightful for both myself, but hopefully you found it insightful to get a little look into seeing how I would perform a check-in for a client. And in this case, I did one on myself. Did not hold anything back. Did not hold anything back on myself. It's the same way I would do a client. And if I'm expecting results, I would expect that these things be done as best as possible to try to mitigate muscle loss in my instance. So hopefully you did find it informative. If you want to find more information on getting one-on-one coaching, well, be sure to hit me up in one of the links below, or email me directly, or reach out on any of my socials. Be happy to get you some information. And if you want me to be as straight up with you and your check-ins the way I was on myself today, but I do it for a reason. You don't need a friend, you need a good coach. It's someone that's going to make the recommendations and not sugarcoat it, but tell you exactly what you need. And then it's on you. That's the accountability, is you have somebody following up with you, but then it's on you to make those changes. So hopefully you found that informative. Stay tuned, and I'm looking to make another video on the follow-up on me implementing those changes, and then we'll be able to see if Coach Q was right. Leave a comment, leave some information down below, leave a message, leave any kind of feedback. Be happy to answer any questions. And if you have any ideas for what you would want to see in future videos, leave that too as well. You could also send that in an inquiry. Until next time, remember, it's about progress, not perfection. Always remember, stay true to yourself. So until next time, be safe. Coach Kia, signing off.